Hello guys, how are you doing? It's your homeboy Guy. I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you guys are doing fine. Myself, I'm perfectly fine. Happy start of the week to everyone. Whatever you're watching, it's Monday here in the Philippines. Hey, I'm doing this video for anyone who's planning to move to a new country, especially for a long-term stay. Maybe you're thinking to have a business, maybe you're thinking to build a family. This video is for you. Please watch it until the end. I will start with a little story. You know, when I arrived in the Philippines here a couple years ago, maybe after 2 to 3 years, I met a girlfriend, Filipina, who was living very far from the big city. When I say big city, it's like Makati, BGC. Not really big city, but high-end city, where you really need a lot of money in order for you to be able to live in those cities. So I met my girlfriend. She was really living far, like sort of provincial girl. And I started dating her. Me, I was living in Metro Manila, not really high-end city, but like a middle, you know, in between poor and rich, in the middle. So, of course, every time that I wanted to see her, I have to travel to her province and stuff like that. And you know what? I quickly start thinking that maybe it's a good idea for me to live in the cheaper area. Because anyway, the girlfriend was living there, the life was cheap there, and why try to, you know, compete where I'm hustling to find a condo or an apartment while I can have that big apartment in that province for probably half price? And that's how I decided to move to the province. But I think it was not really province, but I decided to move to that area that was really far from the big city. And I think that was a very big mistake on my end. I should not have done that. I should not have done that. I should not have done that. Why? Because at the moment that you're moving to a country and you have some ambition to, you know, be successful and stuff like that, to grow and stuff like that, it's a very bad idea to start already, you know, living in a province or some cheap area as you arrive. Nothing to really, I'm not going to say that, oh, it's really bad to, you know, if you don't have money, you have to, I don't know, do something wrong just for the sake of living in a high-end area. But I mean, as much as possible, you want to stay close to the competition. You want to stay close to the big city, because that keeps you in the reality of the country where you're living. The provincial life do not necessarily translate the reality of the country where you're living, especially when you're planning to stay in that country for quite long. You're planning to be like, you know, do some business or work or stuff like that. I used to date that Filipina girlfriend for probably like a year and a half, and I'm telling you, I never thought of trying to look a job, or even when I was trying to look, I was really trying to get the minimum that the company was offering to me. I was already okay with that. Why? Because where I was living by that time was very cheap. It was a provincial life, and the conditions were not so, you know, were not pushing me to really trying to ask more or trying to, you know, exceed or trying to be competitive as I was supposed to be. And things happened, we split, and then we decided to not date anymore, maybe after a year or and a half. And a couple months after, I met another girlfriend, still Filipina. Before my wife, I met another girlfriend who was Filipina, and her, she was living in Makati. Those who are not familiar with Makati, it's like a sort of high-end area also. Makati and BGC are quite high-end area. So, you know, the transition between almost the provincial life that I had to a big city as Makati was not easy. Why? Because I usually, when I was going to see my first girlfriend, it was quite easy because, you know, you can just ride the jeep and those cheap transportation to go there. But when I had to come to Makati, sometime in some area there were no jeep. Those who are not familiar with the jeep here, it's like one of the cheapest transportation here in the Philippines. It's like 8 pesos. I don't know if it's even less than $half. It can bring you over like 1 or 2 kilometers. So it was very complicated to enter Makati with the jeep, because the city of Makati, which is sort of high-end area, was not allowing some transport mode to enter the city. So I had to ride a taxi, and the taxi was suddenly so expensive for me, which I think for somebody who's living in Makati every day will still find it expensive, but at least he will, you know, train his brain. And due to the competitive environment where he's living, once he acknowledges that, he will find it more acceptable than me, who's coming from the province and decide to just suddenly start dating somebody in the big city. So I had that first shock. Every time that I was going to Makati to meet her, it was a bit challenging because, you know, you have to pay for the taxi. It's like 10 times what you were spending when you were dating your first girl. And the second thing also is that it started opening my eyes on a lot of things, you know. Coming into Makati, you see all those people walking fast, trying to, you know, catch up the train, trying to be on time in the office. You see all this big building around you. You know, you just realize that it's really competitive here. And in order for me to survive here, I really need to be at least as much as competitive to, like, as the environment where I'm currently at. Because she was living in Makati, and obviously, if you want to date her, if you want to, you know, have some restaurant and stuff like that, it's still going to be around that area. Do not tell me those stuff like, oh, if somebody loves you, you need to accept you as you are and stuff like that. In 2025, it doesn't work that way. You know, if you find somebody in a certain standard, if you love the person, I believe that you also need to keep the person in the standard where the person was. The person do not always have to downgrade the standard for you. So once I start living in Makati for like a week, 2, 3, 1 month, I quickly realized that I need to uplift myself and upskills myself in everything. And that also teach me something. If at first when I arrived in the Philippines, I was already around Makati, I would have probably saved a lot of time, and I would have probably learned a lot and been way more competitive compared to have spent maybe 2 or 3, maybe 1 or 2 years in a city or in a province that do not reflect exactly the country where I am, or especially in terms of opportunity, that do not present exactly the same opportunity as what I can find if I was living in the big city. And I think this can be applicable to almost every city in the world. I went to Japan. I visited the town of my wife. She's a little bit far from Tokyo, like 2 hours from Tokyo. And I'm telling you, I had that conversation with already several times, like, hey, if I move to Japan with you, I will never accept to live in your hometown. Nothing against your hometown, but I'm just feeling like, if at first I start living there, I might settle my expectation and everything around that hometown, which does not really reflect the competitiveness of your country, because it's a hometown, it's a provincial life, right? So you don't really expect that much competition in the provincial life. Of course, people will say, yeah, you need to also consider, like, what do you like? Some people just like to live far from noise and stuff like that. But I think when you're still in the hustle mode, you know, like, you're in the hustler mode, you're trying to, you know, find your way, find your path, or maybe, you know, grow, build your wealth and stuff like that. I don't think that you're going to do it in province where it's like a peaceful environment and stuff like that. And no. It should be in the middle of the competition, and the middle of the competition are big city. And when you try to look at it, it's easy for you to shift from a big city to a provincial life rather than shift from a provincial life to a big city. I mean, I already see several people easily transit from big city to provincial life, but I seldom see people easily transit from provincial life to big city. Because anyway, if you are able to survive in the big city and you decide to move to a province, it's an easy piece of cake, because you already have enough money. Or even if you don't have money, whatever you are renting in the big city is going to be divided by 3 when you go to province. Whatever you are eating in the big city is going to be divided by 3 when you go to the province. And even sometimes, the quality of stuff that you're eating in city are not so good as sometimes when you're eating in province. So if you were able to survive in a province, in a big city, definitely, well, you can survive in province, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. If you are thinking to move to a new country, to a new area, I think my advice for you will be, try as much as possible to stay in the big city, in the competitive environment. In that way, whenever you will decide to move to the province, it's going to be much easier, because you've already been in the the provincial life do not really reflect the standard of the country, wherever you're living. I mean, it's even you go to Canada, you're going to, I don't know, US, you're going to Japan. Farther you are from the big city, farther you are from the reality of the country. Closer you are from the big city, closer you are from the reality of the country. And usually I never see somebody coming from province, coming from the city and going back to province and being upset. But I already see a lot of people coming from this province and trying to live in the city and being upset, because simply money wise it's day and night. If I'm coming from the big city, whatever I was buying there is divided by 3, so I can live without in the province. If I'm coming from the province, I want to live in the city, I will definitely not face the same challenge, because whatever I was paying there cheap is going to be times 5, and I might be surprised about it. So let me know what you guys are thinking. Wherever you're living now, maybe let me know if you're living in the city or in the province, and what was the criteria in order for you to choose the area where you're living right now. While waiting, take good care of yourself, keep watching, keep liking, more importantly keep subscribing. Be bala.